quiet knock at the door, an unexpected visitor on a deserted road. The figure before you appears harmless, a child, perhaps two children. Their faces are innocent, their voices soft, requesting a ride or permission to enter your home. Then a subtle shift. The eyes. Not the wide, curious eyes of youth, but abyssal voids, solid, unblinking black, like polished obsidian reflecting nothing but your own sudden, paralyzing dread. This is the chilling signature of the black-eyed children, an encounter that has haunted modern consciousness, burrowing deep into the primal fear of the uncanny. These entities, often appearing between the ages of 6 and 16, are almost invariably described as having pale, translucent skin and the unnerving, utterly black eyes that give them their name. They present themselves with an unsettling politeness, an almost too perfect composure that belies the profound wrongness emanating from them. Their requests are simple, yet laden with an unspoken menace: to use a phone, to shelter from the cold, to be driven home. But the moment their true nature is glimpsed, or their request denied, a suffocating wave of intense fear washes over the witness, an almost supernatural terror that leaves them shaken to their core. The modern genesis of this terrifying urban legend can largely be traced back to the late 1990s. In 1998, a journalist named Brian Bethel shared a profoundly disturbing account of an encounter he had in Abilene, Texas. He described being approached in his car by two boys with large, black eyes who asked for a ride home, claiming they needed to retrieve money to see a movie. Bethel recounted an overwhelming, irrational sense of dread that immobilized him, a feeling so potent it compelled him to flee, despite his initial inclination to help. His story, published online, resonated with an unsettling number of individuals who claimed to have similar, previously unexplained experiences. The psychological impact of such encounters, even those recounted secondhand, is profound. Witnesses describe an immediate, visceral reaction, a cold dread that bypasses rational thought and plunges them into a state of pure, instinctual terror. It's not merely the fear of a stranger, but the terrifying cognitive dissonance of seeing something that looks human, yet feels fundamentally, cosmically wrong. The memory of those empty black eyes often lingers, a permanent shadow etched into the mind, a constant whisper of a boundary crossed, a safe world momentarily shattered. Bethel's account, widely disseminated through early internet forums and email chains, quickly solidified into a pervasive urban legend. An urban legend, in folklore studies, is a genre of contemporary narrative often spread by word of mouth, email, or social media, frequently involving elements of humor, horror, or warning, and often presented as true. These stories tap into collective anxieties, reflecting societal fears and concerns. The Black-Eyed Children, or BEC, swiftly became a prominent fixture in this modern mythos, a cryptid of the digital age. A cryptid is an animal whose existence is unproven, such as the Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster, often originating from folklore or eyewitness testimony. But the BEC feel less like an animal and more like a terrifying, unknown intelligence. The intense dread evoked by the Black-Eyed Children can be partly understood through the concept of the uncanny. Sigmund Freud described the uncanny as that class of the frightening which leads back to what is known of old and long familiar. It is the unsettling feeling one gets when something familiar is rendered unfamiliar, or when something that should be inanimate seems to possess life. The BEC perfectly embody this. They appear as children, symbols of innocence and vulnerability, yet their eyes betray an alien, predatory nature, creating a profound sense of cognitive dissonance that short-circuits our sense of safety and reality. While the specific phenomenon of black-eyed children is a relatively recent development in folklore, its roots may stretch back further into history, echoing older tales of malevolent entities disguised as children. Consider the changelings of European folklore, fey creatures left in place of stolen human babies, often described as having an unsettling appearance or demeanor. Or the Irish banshee, sometimes depicted as a young girl, whose mournful wails portended death. These historical accounts reflect a deep-seated human apprehension towards the corrupted innocent, the idea that something pure can be a conduit for immense, inexplicable evil. The pervasive fear surrounding the black-eyed children also taps into deeper cultural anxieties. In an increasingly anonymous and disconnected world, the figure of the unknown child, appearing at our doorstep or roadside, plays upon our fears of the vulnerable, the predator in disguise, and the erosion of trust. They represent the stranger at the gate, the unknown element that threatens the sanctity of our homes and our sense of security. It's a fear of invasion, not just of physical space, but of psychological boundaries, a terrifying reminder that some evils wear the most innocuous masks. Crucially, these encounters almost always involve a request for entry, a crossing of a threshold. They do not force their way in, they ask. This polite yet insistent demand is perhaps the most unsettling aspect, implying a dark, supernatural manifestation of consent. The witness instinctively knows that to grant their request would be to invite disaster, to allow something profoundly malevolent into their personal space, into their life. The urgency in their tone, the creeping sense of dread, all scream of a bargain that must not be struck. This theme of crossing a boundary brings us to the concept of a liminal space. A liminal space is a threshold, a place of transition, neither here nor there, such as a doorway, a highway, or twilight. BC encounters frequently occur in these liminal zones, at the edge of a driveway, on a lonely stretch of road, or late at night. These are spaces where the ordinary rules feel suspended, where the veil between worlds seems thinnest, making them fertile ground for encounters with the unknown. They capitalize on our inherent unease in places of transition. The vividness of these stories and the intense psychological fear they generate also highlights the remarkable power of suggestion and collective belief. When Brian Bethel shared his story, it provided a framework, a language, for others who had experienced similar, inexplicable feelings of dread when encountering strange children. The human mind, seeking patterns and explanations, readily latches onto such narratives, filling in the gaps of its own unsettling memories with the concrete image of those black eyes. This isn't to diminish the reality of the terror felt, but to investigate how cultural narratives shape our perception of the unknown. The proliferation of the black-eyed children legend in the 1990s and beyond was undoubtedly fueled by the nascent power of the internet. Forums, personal websites, and eventually social media platforms allowed these terrifying encounters to be shared globally, instantly. This rapid dissemination transcended geographical boundaries, transforming a localized fear into a worldwide phenomenon. The sheer volume of alleged encounters, though largely anecdotal, added weight and credibility to the legend, making it feel more real, more immediate, more terrifying. From a broader perspective, one might consider the black-eyed children as a contemporary manifestation of an ancient terror, an archetype residing in the collective unconscious. Carl Jung proposed the idea of the collective unconscious, a part of the unconscious mind shared by all of humanity, containing archetypes, universal, archaic patterns and images. The corrupted child, the malevolent entity in innocent guise, the profound otherness that seeks entry. These are archetypes that resonate across cultures and time, speaking to a deep primal fear embedded within the human psyche. Despite countless alleged encounters and fervent discussion, the black-eyed children remain an unanswered question, a persistent enigma. Are they cryptids, a new species of unknown predator? Are they extraterrestrial beings, or perhaps interdimensional travelers seeking to cross into our reality? Could they be spectral entities, a form of spiritual haunting, or even psychological projections of our deepest fears? The lack of any definitive, tangible evidence only serves to deepen the mystery, making them all the more terrifying because they defy categorization and scientific explanation. The very concept of a child, traditionally a symbol of purity, innocence, and hope, being twisted into an agent of dread is profoundly disturbing. It is the ultimate perversion of what we hold sacred, an attack on our most basic assumptions about goodness and vulnerability. This corrupted, innocent archetype evokes a unique brand of psychological dread, a horror that strikes at the heart of our protective instincts and leaves us questioning the very nature of reality and the safety of our world. The legend of the black-eyed children continues to evolve, adapting to new technologies and societal shifts, yet the core terror remains unchanged. It is a story whispered in hushed tones, shared across screens, a chilling reminder that some horrors do not lurk in the shadows of ancient castles or forgotten crypts, but may appear right on our doorstep, wearing the most disarming of faces. The simplicity of their appearance, contrasted with the immense dread they inspire, is their most potent weapon. The lasting consequence of these encounters, whether real or imagined, is a heightened sense of vigilance, a subtle, pervasive fear that lingers at the periphery of our awareness. We become more wary of strangers, more suspicious of the innocent facade, more attuned to the subtle cues that signal something is terribly wrong. The black-eyed children have etched themselves into our collective psyche, transforming our perception of safety and reminding us that the unknown can wear many guises. Ultimately, the true origin of the black-eyed children may not lie in a single historical event or a specific biological anomaly, but within the complex interplay of human psychology, ancient folklore, and modern anxieties. They are a mirror reflecting our deepest fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the corrupted innocent, the fear of losing control, and the chilling realization that some entities merely seek an invitation to enter. The question remains, what happens if you let them in? The terror of the black-eyed children persists, a dark, unblinking gaze fixed upon the edge of our understanding, forever waiting,